You're watching Lindell TV.
I want to go to our guest now. His name is Oleg Atbashian. He's an author, essayist, satirist, and he actually grew up in the former USSR. He was born and raised in Ukraine. Grew up believing that communism was wonderful, and actually at one time he worked as a propaganda artist, creating visual agitation and propaganda for the local party committee in a Siberian town. Eventually he became very disillusioned with the corruption and the hypocrisy of socialism, and he immigrated to the United States in 1994. He's got an incredible collection of writings that look at America and the world through the prism of his Soviet upbringing and experience. He wrote Shakedown Socialism. David Horowitz said, I hope everyone reads this book. And he also wrote the semi-autobiographical Hotel USSR. He's also the creator of the satirical website The People's Cube, which Rush Limbaugh described as a Stalinist version of The Onion. His writings, his satire has been translated into many languages, and it's been reproduced in publications all around the world. Oleg, thank you so much for joining us. It's a real honor and a pleasure to have you. Let's start off with talking about Ukraine. I mean, everybody's got theories about what's going on. You're from there. You know the language. What do you think is happening right now in Ukraine with Russia, the war? Who's to blame? What should we do? Go ahead.
Well, I haven't slept a full night for over a month, about 50 days now, since the war began. And I've been following the news mostly in Ukrainian and Russian from the both countries, and some of it American. So I can say that mostly the war is reported correctly in the mainstream media, but for some reason, the conservative some of the conservative hosts or websites that I had great respect for before this have started promoting very strange opinions, portraying this war as some kind of a spectacle or some kind of a conspiracy. That it's just very disappointing to me. I've written several articles on that subject. In the time that I have here, I will not be able to describe the entire theory of what is going on. I can just say that Putin has miscalculated badly. He has had bad reporting that Ukraine was ready for him to come in, and that Ukrainians would welcome Russian tanks with flowers. That was probably because in the corrupt system that he has created, there is always a chance that the generals to whom he delegates to hire supporters in Ukraine would steal the money to buy some villas and yachts in Europe, while the army, who was supposed to be victorious, they call themselves the second army in the world, was also stealing, and the equipment was old and the people were not prepared. So the army was hoping that the FSB, the security intelligence, would handle the takeover of Ukraine, and the intelligence was hoping that the army would do that, and both of them failed, and now Russia is stuck, and it's changing its explanation for the war. At first it was to liberate Ukraine, then it was to denazify it, then it was to just, well, officially they're not stating it, but they're just killing everything in sight and destroying the cities. And what's most interesting is that they are destroying the cities inhabited by the Russian speakers, because the east of Ukraine and the south of Ukraine traditionally is Russian speaking. That doesn't mean that they're Russians or they would like to be under Russia. It's similar to Ireland, where everybody speaks English, but that doesn't mean that they all want to be English or be part of the Great Britain. So Russian-speaking Ukrainians are just as Ukrainians as the Ukrainian-speaking Ukrainians. Putin claimed he was going to come to liberate them, and now he's killing them by the thousands. Only in the city of Mariupol, over 10,000 civilians have been killed, not counting the military.
Wow. Wow, fascinating take. We've only got probably 7 or 8 minutes left. I do want to spend some time just discussing your experiences growing up under socialism. I know quite a few people who grew up under the former Soviet Union, and I'm always I love to hear their perspectives. What do you think about the rise of socialism in the United States? How concerned are you that we're moving in a bad direction? And how does your experience growing up under that kind of system kind of give you ideas and maybe warning signs about what we see happening in America right now?
Well, in the short period of time, I won't be able to to answer this question in full. Let me just give you one joke from the old Soviet Union that encapsulates the system, including the hypocrisy and the lies of the media, where you have to read between the lines to learn the real news. So it goes like this. There is no one in the Soviet Union, there is no unemployment, and yet nobody's working. Nobody's working, and yet the production quotas are fulfilled. The quotas are fulfilled, and yet the stores are empty. The stores are empty, and yet everybody has everything at home. Everybody has everything at home, and yet nobody's happy. Nobody's happy, and yet the voting is always unanimous. So now I really like that joke, and when I saw what is happening in the United States, it greatly disappointed me, this passion for socialism. So I decided to write my own joke, similar to the Soviet one, about America this time. So America is like capitalist and greedy, and yet half of the population is subsidized. Half of the population is subsidized, and yet they think they're victims. They think they're victims, and yet their representatives are on the government. Their representatives are on the government, and yet the poor keep getting poorer. The poor keep getting poorer, and yet they have all the things that people in other countries can only dream about. They have things that people in other countries can only dream about, and yet they want America to be more like those other countries. That is what it encapsulates the system, the American type of socialism. It's not the same type as the Soviet Union had before, but yet it's not fully socialism yet. It just has some elements of that. And let me tell you that when, if God forbid, they have implemented the full real socialism, then at least all those freaks in the education system that you described in your news segment would go away, because in the Soviet Union nobody had anything similar to that would destroy the education system, that would not let children be educated, because the government needs soldiers and engineers and educated personnel in order to fight the war for socialism. So
yeah, fascinating. Hey,
well,
Oleg, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. I want to ask, before we have to let you go and you give us your websites, the best places to follow you, what do you see going forward? Are things going to get worse? And how do you recommend, if people want to get involved, people want to resist this trend toward more and more socialism, more and more government involvement, more and more weirdness in the education system? What do you recommend that people do?
Well, of course, I think the key here is the education system. A lot of other aspects are also important, but this is where the next generation is growing, and this is where the left has taken complete full reign, and they've been releasing people into the world who know nothing about the real world and only know about how to demand things and how to support those so-called progressives who claim they're socialists. To change the education system, well, of course, we need to be more active. That is what needs to be done. I mean, so many things need to be done, and it's getting worse and worse. But my hope is that in the Soviet Union, I remember when I was growing up, the more the teachers were pushing that ideology on us, the more we resented it, and the more we were inclined to tell jokes about socialism. So my hope is that once this new generation of children realizes that the left is not the oppressed minority, as they always claim to be, but they are the man. You know how the left always say we need to fight the man, but they are the man. They have been the man for a long time now. So once the children realize that, they will naturally resist, because it's inherent in the children's psychology to resist the system, to be some kind of a revolutionaries, and that's how actually society progresses. That every generation tries to find something new, and the left has taken advantage of that to create these kind of leftist revolutionaries. But they can also suffer from the same tendency among the children, who will start rejecting the leftist ideas. That is my biggest hope. The biggest enemy of the left is the human nature, because human nature is with us, with the right-thinking people, and they cannot change it. In the Soviet Union, they've spent 70 years to try changing human nature, and they failed. They didn't produce the new man they promised.
That's right. The new Soviet man never did seem to arrive, huh? Oleg, we're all out of time, but tell us the best websites to find you. We've got thepeoplescube.com, and also what's the best place for people to get your books?
You can find them on Amazon, and I will show them to you. It's Shakedown Socialism and Hotel USSR. Shakedown Socialism is a collection of essays about my experience of working both in the Soviet Union and the United States, and comparing the two. And I have high praise about this book. Hotel USSR is like a slightly fictionalized story of me growing up and trying to be an artist in the Soviet Union, where I couldn't buy paints unless I was the artist union member. So I tried to be an artist. I then gave up because I couldn't. And then when I saw how easily you can buy paint supplies in the United States, any kind of paint supplies, I broke into tears already when I was here in the United States. But it's a little too late for me to pick it up. And well, it's an interesting book, and I also have pretty good reviews about that.
Excellent.
With color,
Oleg, thank you so much for
my art here.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Oleg, we're all out of time, but I want to thank you so much for coming on, sharing your insight with us. We'll get you back soon, and thank you very much again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that was Oleg Atbashian, analyst, satirist, and writer from Ukraine, from the former Soviet Union. We're all out of time, but I do want to remind you folks, this show is brought to you by MyPillow. Go to MyPillow.com. Use that promo code Newman. Support the show, support this network, and get some great stuff for yourself at massive discounts, up to 66% off when you use that promo code Newman. That's all we have time for today. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is the Sentinel Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. Until next time, God bless you all.